How many of y'all drove today? By yourselves? With a friend? Any bikers? No bikers. No walkers? One scooter? And any buses? All right. I always think that's an interesting question to ask people, and I wonder if that answer would be any different if we asked that question 20 years ago. And I wonder if the answers would be different when we ask that question 20 years from now. Current estimates have the population of Austin in the greater metropolitan area doubling from 2010 levels by 2030. And anybody who has tried to go anywhere north and south in Austin on a Friday afternoon knows that our current transportation system is being pushed to its limits. Given our focus here on sustainable building and green buildings, it's apparent to us who work in the field that a green building doesn't exist in a vacuum, and there is really no such thing as a green building by itself. Without considering the fact that the green building is part of a green community, you really can't plan for sustainability, and so then transportation becomes a very important part of building sustainably and creating a green built environment. To that end, today we have three speakers who will wow you with the exciting things that are going on in local transportation. We have Robert Spillar, the Director of the City of Austin Transportation Department, and he will discuss Austin's strategic mobility plan and the long-range plan. That's Austin's long-range plan for sustainable transport in Austin. As the lead transportation professional for the City of Austin, Mr. Spillar is responsible for the city's traffic engineering, signals, signs, markings, right-of-way management, special events, and transportation planning. He is an experienced transit program development engineer, having worked on a wide range of transit projects related to including Sound Transit in Seattle, Washington, Tri-Met Rail and transit projects in Portland, Oregon, and a number of park and ride projects nationwide. He holds a bachelor's and master's of civil engineering from the University of Texas and University of Washington, respectively. He is a registered engineer in both the state of Texas and Washington. Please help me in welcoming Mr. Robert Spillar.
Well, good afternoon. It sounds like you all have been participating in a range of green building discussions, and so that's exciting. And what I want to talk to you about today is how transportation relates to land use, and also how transportation, the program that your city has developed through the Strategic Mobility Plan, is really a green approach if we think about it in that way. As introduced, my name is Robert Spillar. I'm Director of Transportation, and yes, also the target for a lot of concern in the community right now, because we're talking about taking control of our transportation system and thinking long term over the next 20 or 30 years, how does Austin want to grow in terms of its mobility needs? Would it surprise you if I told you that Austin has a problem? Austin has a problem, and that issue is, how do we maintain the economic health and vitality of our community? And when I say vitality, I mean the cultural and environmental heritage that makes Austin what it is. That's the problem. The risk to not being able to achieve that is the lack of mobility that our transportation system today offers. Let me ask you a question. Can you visualize what a doubling of the regional population looks like in terms of our mobility system? Well, let me propose this. A doubling of our regional system means another 40 or 50,000 employees in Central Austin. And when I say Central Austin, I mean UT, Capitol Complex, and downtown. We all know what it's like to get here today, how hard it is to get into that central area today. Well, South by Southwest, just 2 weeks ago, had 40,000 registered guests. They generated over 200,000 visits over that week. But that, in fact, is what another 40,000 employees downtown would do, is generate something like 200,000 visits over the week. Now, I'm not saying that a commute in 20 or 30 years is going to look like South by Southwest every day, But clearly something between what we have today and what South by Southwest experience gave us is what we have to look forward to if we don't take this by the horns and figure out what we're going to do in terms of mobility into the future. And so what I propose to you, it's not a traffic issue. It's not a traffic problem. The problem is, how do we bring the next 30 or 40 or 50,000 future employees and residents in and out of Central Austin on a daily basis? That's a big issue. Yes, traffic's a problem. Traffic is annoyance. Yes? But it is a symptom of the underlying problem. That underlying problem is a good one to have. That's the success that we have in Central Austin in this region. We have so many growth drivers focused here on Austin, our great environment, our great weather, our great economy, our great place to live. All that is driving growth. It's not an accident. Okay? So the question is how do we plan for that next 30 or 40,000 or 50,000 employees, whether they come in the next 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years? It doesn't really matter. We need to start planning for it now, because as we talk about major investments in infrastructure, it takes that kind of a time and advanced thinking to develop a plan. We started this process by talking to the community about a year and a half ago. We started our strategic mobility plan, and we went out in a series of listening posts asking the public to identify gaps within our network, our transportation network. We did something revolutionary, apparently. We went out with blank maps. We didn't go out with a plan. We didn't go out with a pre-decided series of investments. We went out with a blank road map, basically, and transit map, and bike map, and said, where are the gaps? And see this map of Austin, if you'll trust me that that's Austin in the background there. It doesn't show up well on slides, but every one of those red dots that you see there, it looks like it has measles or something, is a unique identified gap within our transportation system. And it spanned the whole spectrum of modes: bicycles, pedestrians, highways, transit. And what we heard from the public over and over was, please address growth, encourage investment, preserve housing and affordability where it's appropriate, and certainly coordinate with land use plans that are accepting of growth. Be sustainable, protect parklands and natural resources wherever possible, preserve those neighborhoods and communities through coordination with existing plans or emerging plans, and preserve historic and cultural resources. One thing we heard about growth is there are a number of communities that are not afraid of growth. There are certainly some that want to preserve their current status. Okay, I understand that. But there are communities that are willing to have growth if we're willing to invest in the transportation investments necessary, and not just transportation, but park and school and other things, to make those neighborhoods sustainable. One of the recurring and continuous responses that we got was, please improve access into that central core, into the University of Texas, where we have something like 60 to 80,000 daily population accessing the University of Texas, and something only like between 15 and 20,000 parking spaces. Please improve access. Improve access to the Capitol complex, because as the state starts to think about reinvestment, we need to make sure that we have adequate access to serve that very important stable employment piece of our network. And you know what? Downtown's growing, both residential and commercial, and so let's make sure we can continue to get into our cultural center. So we heard that repeatedly. So that turns us to a green transportation approach, and I've called it a pragmatic approach. And it's about reducing the demand. It's about reusing and recycling the facilities we have. And yes, it's about reinvesting in our transportation system that we have not thought long-term about, both in terms of forming more productive partnerships with TxDOT and with the Regional Mobility Authority and with Capital Metro, but also making some investments that are not typical of Austin's history. So let me go through that. What do I mean by reduced demand? I mean things like coordinating land uses so we invest in growth centers. That's what our comprehensive plan is evolving to, and that's what we need to focus on, because we know that people that are locating in well land mixed or land use mixes, centers, have lower travel profiles, meaning that they tend to walk to their grocery store. They have the opportunity, at least, to walk and bike. They don't have to drive a car. Sometimes those folks can find opportunities to even work within their center. We're investing with the Downtown Austin Alliance in terms of developing a transportation management association, a public-private partnership to work with individual businesses to get workers to change their commute patterns. Things as simple as having a concierge available to go to you at an employment site and say, how do I get you out of your car? A lot of times what we hear is, well, I don't know what bus routes to take. I'm scared of bus routes. Or I don't know anyone else to carpool. That concierge can work across businesses to find you other people that live in your neighborhood that are headed to the same area and get you out of your car. Or for instance, what does it take to get you on a bike? Well, show me a route that I can take on a bike. So those kind of things. Expanded parking management. Again, this is to make sure that the people, the customers that need to drive often because they're going to pick up packages and stuff, have the opportunity to park conveniently, but that we're encouraging people to move into carpools and other forms of transportation. Would it surprise you if I told you that in the 2000 census, and I'm guessing that as soon as we get the travel information out of the surveys that are more recent, that Austin has the highest per capita carpooling and the highest per capita transit ridership in the state of Texas? Does that surprise you? It surprises me because in a city where we do very little in terms, we don't have HOV lanes, we don't have lots of carpool-only parking, our community still ends up carpooling and using transit at a rate that's higher than our peer cities of Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. That's pretty incredible. What can we do if we encourage that kind of behavior is the question. Let's talk about reuse and recycling facilities. The mayor has been quoted as saying, we have the same street grid system that we did when we were formed as a city back in 18 whatever it was, okay? We're not building new streets. We have the same grid system in downtown, and in fact, we've lost capacity as federal buildings and other buildings have needed for security reasons and parks and other things. We've actually lost some street links. The point being is that we need to think of the transportation system as a system that needs to respond to changing travel needs. For instance, we permit over 150 special events using the street system every year. Everything from farmers markets to parades to runs, etc. Thinking of the transportation system as not a static system, but something that can be reprogrammed depending on the day or the time to meet the needs of our citizens. That's good use of our facilities. Active traffic management. We are trying to move the Transportation Department, City of Austin, into an active role where we will start to better manage the signal system. We have very little control over the signals. We have two timing systems right now, peak period and off-peak period. We need to be more able to dynamically control those signals so that we can respond to changing traffic needs on a minute-by-minute basis to continuously improve your travel characteristics. And so we're looking at a range of innovative traffic controls. This past year, the citizens of Austin funded a $90 million transportation bond. What that has gone to is projects looking at things like the Oak Hill Y intersection, 969 intersections, and US 183 and so forth. We are investing in traffic management programs that may change how you interact with a signal in the future. For instance, out at the Y, there's a program with TxDOT to rebuild that whole set of intersections someday, but that's going to take a number of years to get to. So in the meantime, can we make prudent changes to the transportation system, change what those intersections look like to reduce your delay? We're working on that now on your behalf, investing at the Y alone about $4 million of city funds, another $1.5 million of county funds to lower the delay that you're experiencing right now. And then that gets us into Reinvest. And when I say Reinvest, yes, we're talking about new capacity where it makes sense. We are partnered with TxDOT and the Regional Mobility Authority to hopefully add express lanes, a single express lane in each direction on MOPAC. Why is the city interested in that? Because if we have an express lane, we can get transit routes from Northwest Austin directly into the lower part of downtown. We don't have many transit riders that come from Northwest Austin all the way into downtown, lower downtown right now, because all those bus routes get off up at 38th Street and come to the university and upper downtown first. And so if we can provide a better service in terms of travel times into lower downtown, then perhaps we can increase that ridership further. And so that's why the city's interested in that. We're also taking on I-35. For many years, this community has wrung its hands at what can we do with I-35. It is an old corridor within a very tight right-of-way. You know, at the university, we have the stadium on one side and the state cemetery on the other. The ability to widen that facility is probably not very good. We need to think about how do we maximize the capacity or reinvest within the capacity within the current footprint. Can we do it? Yes. There is currently a law circulating, a bill through Congress right now, through the state capitol right now, to allow us to reuse the shoulders of congested freeways for bus use during congested periods. What if a bus moving only at 30, 35 miles an hour could bypass all that congestion by using that shoulder and get you to downtown faster than in your car? Would you be more apt to get in that bus? Sure, I would. So that's the idea. Can we reuse the frontage roads differently? Can we change the entrances and exits to maximize the throughput of that facility? And that gets us to urban rail. Because no matter what we do in terms of improving capacity on the current system, no matter how much efficiency we can squeeze out of the existing system, you know, it's still not going to be enough to meet the needs of the next 30 or 40,000 employees in Central Austin. So we need to think about a new pipeline for people into Central Austin. We believe that transit is one opportunity to think about that, and the City of Austin has proposed an urban rail program. We are starting the EIS process on it. We started it this month. Outside there are brochures called scoping documents that give you a lot more information, including a website of where to go to get full information on it. I encourage you to look at that. But just a quick overview of the proposal. It is urban rail, similar to streetcar, but also similar to light rail. It goes from the old airport to the new airport. It contemplates multiple alignments in downtown. Those are not alternatives. Those are 2 north-south and 2 east-west alignments because we think we need that capacity. It crosses the river either on an existing bridge or perhaps a new bridge and heads out to the airport. We think this system could certainly provide the capacity needed as we move forward and think about how we get that 30 or 40,000 people downtown. The project purpose is to provide greater mobility options, improve person moving capacity, and support the city's environmental public health planning and economic goals, and certainly encourage investment. Look, this region's going to grow by 1.5 million people. Whether that happens in the next 20, 30, or 40 years, it doesn't really matter. Austin needs to be prepared as a municipality to absorb its fair share of that growth. And that's what also this is about, is going out as a community and seeking a portion of that economic growth for the City of Austin. Identified community needs. We've identified 6 areas that we think need to be connected. Of course, downtown, University of Texas Capitol Complex, but also the International Airport down south and the old airport up north. Expand that connectivity to the emerging region, improve air quality, and connect to the regional transit system that exists today. In fact, there's a regional transit system, that exists. The red line is the first investment. Capital Metro's red line is the first investment. There's been a lot of press about it, but in fact, they are meeting their ridership targets that they predicted that their first year would hit. And so now at the end of their first year, they're actually meeting those targets. Many of their trains in the morning and evening peaks from Leander are standing room only. And so making sure we connect and expand that system is important. We're looking at 3 alternatives just to, make sure everyone's aware. Yes, we have proposed an urban rail system, but we're also looking at the existing no-build situation, what happens if we don't do anything, and then a better bus concept modeled on Cap Metro's bus rapid type service. And so doing as much as we could with a bus, what type of response do we get, both economically as well as from a ridership perspective? This is the slide I was looking for and wanted to show you. As you can see, there is currently a regional rail system plan. It includes the operating Capital Metro red line to the east and then up to Leander. It contemplates a similar commuter rail line to Manor and Elgin to reach out to the east where the desired development zone is. It contemplates an investment in the MOPAC corridor, which is called Lone Star Rail. It is the intercity rail investment to connect Georgetown, Austin to San Antonio. It includes the bus rapid up and down the Central Core, Lamar, South Congress, but it also includes the city's proposed urban rail that would tie all those investments together. If you know, Capital Metro is making their transit investments on the east side of town. Lone Star, of course, is on the west side of town. You need some way to tie those technologies together, and urban rail provides that glue. Quickly, the EIS will evaluate a range of environmental issues, both natural environment as well as community and person environments. And the process is about a 12 to 18-month process, and the only thing I wanted to point out here is that yellow word scoping. That's where we're at. And so you can see we're at the beginning of the process, not at the end. This is a proposal. We're working with the community to look at the issues that are important. That's really the end of my presentation. I look forward to questions and answers. I think I'm going to hand this over to Bubba Needham at this point.